In 1919, he hit 29 home runs and was sold to the New York Yankees.
A three-run home run for Buffington. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2. Bill Lee is now going over to a couple of the Yankees, and there they go again.
One hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series.
Varitek and A-Rod going at it. Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts safe.
And what can I say? Just tip my hat and call the Yankees my daddies.
Welcome to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports, episode 239. This is bananas.
I know, it's crazy. We started this podcast on June 20th of 2020. Can you believe that?
So remember,
almost 6 years.
For historical perspective, if you're just joining us for the first time, the pandemic started, things locked down in March of 2020. And John and I hadn't spoken a ton since I moved back to Connecticut. I moved back to Connecticut from Boston in 2019. You reached out sort of almost kind of randomly and said, hey, I want to do this. And the way John is, you always have a little edge, but like when you want something, you want something. And I was like, sure, screw it. I don't got anything else going on. So we sat down and we did it. And in some ways, it's still true that we almost don't care how many people are listening. We just like to do it. It's a chance to catch up. And now you're good friends with Matt Soroy's. We have a really good text thread. Of all my text threads, it's always interesting. A little too Yankee focused for me. But, it's reforged our friendship. And here we are, 239 episodes.
And it's brought us some interesting guests, too. I mean, when you think about some of the guests that we've had, I mean, just recently, a person that's in the news, you think of Jackson Olsen, who's going to be on Dancing with the Stars, right?
Right.
He was one of our guests, right when people were just finding out about this guy, because he had a social media presence. It's like, and he's playing baseball in front of 70,000 people. So just like Fred Lynn.
Fred Lynn was my favorite because the way his recollections of Muzzy Field, I thought was absolutely
Clint
stunning.
Hurdle, because he was a character, and of course John Sterling, who we just recently reposted his episode. It's pretty amazing to me that because when you talk about podcasts, most of them don't make it, right? Like in general, they just
we don't. The reason we make it too is that we don't need to make money off it.
Well, and we also have the commitment too.
Yeah.
Most people, it's not even about the money; they just give up because it's a lot of work. And
that's you, but it's not me. That's you.
But you still have to be here, and you still have to talk, and you still have to make sense,
right? Well, yeah, it's mostly you, and we'll talk about Bobby Dickerson too in a little bit later in the episode, who is still. He's still in Philly, right? He's still, and the thing is that team, the Phillies, is like the story. They're the story of baseball, kind of, that no one's talking about because they were tied with the Mets.
Yeah.
And now, and I looked at it.
Well, last episode we recorded, they were in last place in the AL East.
Yeah.
NL East, sorry. Yes.
And now they're only like 3 or 3.5 out of the wild card in May.
Second worst record in baseball. Now,
So they're like 14-5. So Mattingly, everyone's wondering like why didn't Cora take it? And then a lot of people are like, well, it'll probably be available anyway in the offseason. And maybe Mattingly earned himself a job.
Yeah, it's interesting because you think Mattingly. He didn't want that job. Everybody knows he didn't want that job. He was there
because he wants the Yankee job.
No, I don't think he doesn't need it. Like he's done what he needs to do.
He doesn't want to be. He doesn't feel the need to be a manager.
Exactly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think I feel, and just kind of the conversations I've had in general, I feel like he was there just as not as a favor to his son, who's a general manager, but just as
his son's a general manager.
Yeah, Preston is a general manager.
He works under Dombrowski.
Yeah, so when this whole Mattingly thing went down, I'll say if you paint it the way where he just kind of takes the job because he's there. So if you ever have to get rid of him, it's not a big deal. It's like he was just taking the job anyways. It wasn't like we actively sought this guy out, and now my son has to get rid of him.
Is that widely known? Because I never would have thought of. I thought maybe he wanted to get back in and sort of reclaim his reputation as a manager because he's not been terribly successful.
Well, think about it. If you have a guy of his stature on the team as your bench coach and you fire the manager, who is everybody going to be turning their heads to?
Of course.
Right? So it's a very convenient thing, and it's an easy thing for them because it doesn't make them look bad at all. Because
most bench coaches want to be managers.
Yeah, but look, you're Don Mattingly. You managed the Dodgers, you managed the Marlins, you've been to the World Series, you've done all of it. The only thing you haven't done is win a World Series, right?
Right. Well, some people are burned for that.
But you have a very good chance of doing
that. Do you know that that's the way he feels?
I'm about 99.9% sure.
Okay.
That's how he feels.
We'll get into Bobby Dickerson and the Phillies a little bit more later, more because of Bobby Dickerson and not the team, because we just did it right there. Let's do some team check-ins. You want to start with your boys?
Yeah, so obviously the Yankees, I'll say they crapped the bed against the Mets, right? They lose.
Well, they lost 2 or 3.
Lost 2 or 3 to the Mets. The Yankees are what, like 2-7 or 2-8 over the last 10, 3-7, something like that. Whatever. It's not good.
If the bullpen had held on Sunday and they won 2 or 3, you'd be singing a different tune.
Well, yeah, that too, but it doesn't matter. The fact is you still have all the holes in your regular lineup, regardless of what the bullpen's doing, right? Because the bullpen's going to bullpen eventually, right? They can't be perfect.
Yeah, but the batting lineup's fine.
It's terrible. What is good about it, other than Judge and Ben Rice?
I don't know. They produce a lot of runs.
Come on, dude. You mean to tell me that the Yankees, in your opinion, have a good lineup where they're producing a lot of runs when they are so left-handed dominant, and the majority of those left-handed bats, other than Rice, are batting $175?
You're such a skewed cynic. They have the most runs scored in the American League.
It doesn't matter. They have flaws. If you match them up right when it comes down to it, you're going to beat them. You could pitch around Aaron Judge all day on that lineup because neither Bellinger or Rice, which I said at the beginning of the season are the main factors, aren't going to be clicking at the same time. The chances of that happening are so slim and none. So until you get a right-handed bat or another left-handed bat so you can flip those around, it's not going to work. You have too many left-handed bats that aren't hitting.
Fine, but
Catcher can't hit. Second baseman can't
I
hit.
would take it.
Third baseman can't hit.
I would take
Center
it.
field can't hit.
I would take it.
Yeah, if you would take it, Brian, because your team is worse. And none of those guys can hit. At least some of the Yankees run into one once in a while, hit a home run, but that does not wipe out the fact that if it comes down to real baseball, which is going to happen when you need to win games, the matchups don't make sense.
Well, listen, I'll only say one thing in support of that is that does it look like a team that's going to win the World Series? It does not.
No.
But who's the pitcher that's hurt now?
Fried.
Okay, so if you think you're going to lose him?
Well, he'll be out at least a month, right? Guaranteed, because he's going to have to work his way back. So if he's out for 2 weeks, he's out for a month. He's going to work his way back because they're going to be cautious with him because they have the pitching depth with Cole coming back. But the other problem here is Rondon has come back and he's not looked good, and he's your lefty other than Ryan Weathers, right? If you lose Rondon to not pitching well, you're very right-handed dependent now on your lineup, on your pitching rotation.
When does Cole come back?
Cole, they're saying Cole's hitting 99 now, and last time I checked, I thought he was getting stroked at A-ball. So they're saying he's hitting 99, and I would say the minimum, I would say he'd be back after his next minor league start. If not
It's soon.
Yeah, I would say within the next 2 starts he's back. Wow. But that still doesn't replace the fact that you have a very shaky bullpen, and I'll say shaky because you don't know what you're getting out of Bednar's. Duvall is a complete disaster. I would never even have Bird on the team. And I've said that all along. So he's completely useless. And you got a guy in AAA, Lagrange, who, yes, his ERA is a little high, but he's throwing the fastest pitches in the minor leagues. He hit 103 miles an hour the other day. Why is that guy not closing games for us? Or at least being groomed as a closer?
So you got a 4-game set. I mean, it's a nice little homestand, really, and everyone can sleep in their own beds from the Mets. So it's a nice little stretch. You got 4 against Toronto, and then Tampa comes to town.
Right, and Toronto wants to play you hard because they hate you, right? They want to beat you. And Tampa is in first place right now playing small ball. They're playing old school baseball, let's be honest. They're not striking out. They're stealing bases. They're doing it with speed. And they're not even hitting the ball in the park. Yeah, Caminero hits one out. Yandy Diaz hits one out once in a while. Ain't nobody else hitting it out.
I like it. No, I can't forget. We were talking about on the radio, because you came on the radio show, on my morning show on WTIC News Talk 1080. We talked about this, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't on the podcast that, maybe there's a balance now being struck between the Moneyball data-driven crap and just playing ball, because Moneyball says don't bunt, right? Moneyball, I mean, if you read the book and saw the movie, you don't bunt. You don't steal. You don't play small ball.
I don't necessarily agree with it because you look at it this
Agree
way.
with what? With
the whole
what?
Moneyball thing, because Tampa's been doing it since their existence. Other than the fact that when they first came in the league and they went out and got like the Vinny Castillos and the Jose Cansecos and those guys, when they first started out, all they've done is play quote-unquote Moneyball, small
But now
ball.
they're putting the ball. Well, no, Moneyball and small ball are not the same thing.
Moneyball, whatever. Just getting guys that get on base and not paying them and then getting rid of them.
Right.
Okay, that's what they're doing.
Right.
Throwing the opener, not having a starter. Like they've held on to Shane McClanahan for 4 years, and the dude is literally throwing 1 season. But he's finally throwing a good season, so they'll ride that guy all the way through here. He's probably a free agent after this year. They'll just cut him loose because they know he'll be hurt after this season. They don't care. There's no loyalty on that team. You know what I mean? They're going to use you and dump you, and hopefully they're not even signing young contracts anymore. If you weren't them, wouldn't you be locking up Junior Caminero right now? No, they're probably thinking he might be the next Wander Franco. You know, not to say he's going to be, but let's get back to them. I mean, they're doing it. What I'm talking about is White Sox, good, sucked for a while. Their prospects and their trades are starting to work out. The A's sucked for a long time. Their trades and their prospects are starting to work out. But the Rays have been consistently competing for the last 10, 15 years, and that they're not trading their players. They're not acquiring big players. They're going out, they're picking up these little guys here and there that are off the scrap heaps. They're keeping them for 2 years, and they're getting rid of them.
So it's fascinating. Say they're in the same position at the deadline, they probably wouldn't do anything.
No, and that's why they're not putting any fans in their stadium, and they never will, even when they make the World Series or the playoffs, because the team sucks. Nobody wants to go see that team play, regardless if you're winning.
Nobody can name 3 players on the team.
Exactly. So let's build them a stadium so they can continually suck, bringing 31,000 people, which will be for the first year, and then they'll have 10 grand at the stadium.
He's John Senegal. I'm Brian Shackman. This is Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. Not a whole lot of difference to the narrative with the Red Sox. Except the days where they're, like on Sunday, when their pitching doesn't work too, it looks awful. We know their offense is terrible. I mean, they've allowed, even with the 8 runs they allowed on Sunday, they're one of the 10 best teams in major leagues in terms of like low runs allowed, right? I mean, they've obviously, the pitching has delivered, and outside of the San Francisco Giants, I think no team has produced fewer runs, so their offense is the problem. That's why it's rich when you're complaining about the Yankees lineup. I mean, the Red Sox have nothing, and now Trevor Story's out, and he hasn't been much either. They have nothing.
Where's Casas?
I just
What's
was
going on
saying
with that guy?
Like, why can't give him some AB?
Where is that guy? He's got to be. Didn't we look him up and think he was like supposed to be coming back like the end of May or June? I could have swore. I mean, I think I'll say it. I talked about it on the radio before we started recording. The Red Sox are hurting with some injuries, right? They got some injuries, obviously with Roman Anthony, and I think the big issue with the Red Sox now is, yes, they're in the bottom of the division, but even if the Red Sox wanted to improve their team at the deadline, if these guys keep performing the way they are, they're not going to do it. Their biggest trade chip is Jarren Duran. Let's be honest.
I actually really like him.
And if he's going to keep batting a buck, whatever, nobody's going to take him, because maybe that's what you're going to get with Jarren Duran. I've said it a zillion times with Major League Baseball. If you're not going to do it for 3 or 4 years in a row, like that, you have to perform at that level 3 or 4 years in a row before I'm going to start believing in you. It's just how it is. These guys, it's too hard. Too many analytics.
Casas is still out with an injury.
So we'll see. We'll see what the Red Sox are going to do. I just feel like that team has gotten so many bad strikes against them, as far as the firings and the scrutiny against them, and then the injuries, and then this and that. It's one of those things where it's just like, okay, what's going to happen next bad? And that it's just never going to get better. It's just going to be the same, and they're just going to be.
You know when guys go on the IL, and sometimes I feel like guys go on the IL because they're like, screw it, I don't want to.
Just going to go on the IL,
yeah.
Right?
And I feel like that's already happening. Like no reason for Roman Anthony to hurry, any of them to hurry back.
Yeah, it's almost like it's gotten so bad for him, no one cares anymore.
Correct. That's what it feels like. And they're 8-14 at home, right? They have an unbelievably. I mean, outside of like the Angels, I don't think anyone's worse at home. And that to me is like, you can't lose like that.
I mean, you'll look up and you're right. The Red Sox are that kind of team. You're gonna look up and it's gonna be like, oh, it's the All-Star break. Roman Anthony's still on the IL. What happened to him?
And then it's like they have this philosophy with their hitting and everything that's obviously not working, right? They had this. They brought in that I'm not going to redo podcasts of people that focus on in Boston. The bottom line is that maybe they're saying long term this is the strategy, but at what point do you say screw it and throw the plan away and just play baseball? I wonder if that conversation's even happening, or like stick with the program. It's only mid-May. Again, I go back to Moneyball. I think of like Brad Pitt going into the owner's office and be like, all we need to do is be 7 games out by the All-Star break or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like the season is still young. It just feels utterly hopeless.
Yeah.
And I watch some over the week. Every time I tune in, it's like whether it's a guy on third with 1 out, nothing ever happens, or they don't put the ball in play enough for good things to happen.
Yeah, you're not going to win baseball.
If you don't hit home runs, you can't play that way. You just can't do it. So I just wonder if they can just say, you know what, throw in the towel of the season, let the kids hit, and let's see if we can get something.
Yeah, the kids aren't hitting. That's the problem. They're just not. They just don't like. It's you got a bunch of the shit I was bitching about.
Yeah, there's nothing. But the bottom line is there's nothing to get excited about. So let's talk about a couple other things. I want to talk about. There's a bunch of players that we have no idea who they are leading their teams in hitting, right?
Yeah.
And tell me about Ildemaro Vargas.
Yeah, so Ildemaro Vargas is one of those. He's
I don't even know who he plays for.
so he plays for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and believe it or not, he's 34 years old.
34 years old.
Yeah, he made his major league debut in June of 2017 with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and since then he played for the Minnesota Twins, the Cubs, Pittsburgh, the Nats, and then back to Arizona. So he's been in Major League Baseball for 10 years.
That's incredible.
1,300 at bats, 258 average, 27 home runs, 176 RBIs, a 296 on base percentage, and a 675 OPS. So he's not a great player. He's a journeyman. He's a utility infielder. But at 34 years old, he's finally apparently found his stroke, and he's playing every day for Arizona, and he's doing well. And it's interesting because Torey Lovullo, I heard an interview with him, and that's the manager of the Diamondbacks. He said, because he's known him for a while because he was in the organization to begin with back in 2017, that he's always been a good player. It was just something that he needed to figure out, right? And you hear that a lot. Like Carl Everett was a good example with the Red Sox. He was like supposedly supposed to be a good player for a long time, and he just couldn't do it. And all of a sudden, he went to the Red Sox. He was originally with the Yankees drafted, and he bounced around in like
Tampa, right?
A couple years with the Red Sox. All of a sudden, he clicked. Remember with the Red Sox, and he went on this tear for like 4 or 5 years with the Red Sox. Then he was gone. But that was the back end of his career, and it took him like 7 years to figure it out. So maybe that's what we're looking at here in a guy like that. So
I would check his urine though. I mean, he's got 7 home runs, and it's a career high. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying he's doing anything, but like that's kind of crazy. And he's already tied for his career high in RBI. That's insane.
I mean, let's be honest. He was a utility infielder. He probably played defense. Worked the back end of a doubleheader.
Yeah, but he had a season. He had 2 seasons where he had more than 100 more at bats than he has this season. Which it's just funny to look at the numbers. I wonder, maybe it is. And baseball is a crazy game. Baseball and golf to me are the same. It's like the game is all about failure.
Yeah.
And it's a cliche at this point. You can fail 70% of the time and be an all-star. But the bottom line is that you can practice and practice and practice, and for some reason you have to practice all the time because you can lose it on any given day.
You can automatically lose it. Look what happened to Tim Anderson 2 seasons ago. He gets punched in the head by Jose Ramirez, and you never hear about the guy again. He was an all-star, Team USA, batting champ, and he literally was like, the switch just got turned off. I'm not going to say he got the baseball knocked out of him, but dude, that guy just literally disappeared, and he wasn't old.
Yeah.
He was like 29 years old.
It's crazy. It's such a hard game, and even if you put in the time, there's no guarantee of success. And golf is the same way.
And that's not even taking into health into consideration. That's just taking in like your ability almost was just zapped.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, maybe he was hurt. Maybe some guys have lingering issues, but
but there's a bunch of your point is, but that story can be repeated in different ways all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And baseball is just. It's harsh.
And there's a ton of guys that we'll never even mention it across baseball over the last 100 years that came up and were awesome for 2 years and just disappeared. Or awesome for 1 year and just disappeared. It's unbelievable that the fact that you can come up and first make it that far, or the guy that finally cracks the egg at 31 in the major leagues.
But to Lovullo's point, to stick around for 10 years and never be like that good of a starter is pretty incredible. And so obviously enough systems. It's Arizona, Minnesota, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Washington, for them to give him a chance when all they're doing is itching to give other people a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that speaks to it. So I find that fascinating. I never heard of the guy, and so now I'm going to follow him because it's fascinating. He's John Senecal on Brian Shackman. This is Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. Let's finish with your buddy Bobby Dickerson in Philly. So they fired the manager, but they didn't clean house on the staff.
No, they literally, that's it. They got rid of the manager, and they moved a bench coach, infield coach to bench coach, then guy to a
So what did Bobby
base
do?
coach. He stayed. He's the infield coach.
Okay, so and I believe as of Monday morning, they're 14-5 since Mattingly took over.
Yeah, 15-4, 14-5, something like that.
What
yeah.
did he say has been different?
Well, he said at first they're playing easier competition.
Now they are.
Yeah, now they are. So the record will reflect it. But I mean, I think a lot of it is like, I'll say it, it's baseball. You know, you just change mindset, you change direction. Now, granted, you know, I think the Red Sox, it got in their head more because it was a drastic change. It was like out of nowhere. You know, where the Phillies thing was brewing a little bit more, and it was only a one-person change. It wasn't such a drastic change. I think that's the main thing. It wasn't like they got rid of the whole coaching staff and there was all this turmoil and stuff, and the players were blindsided. You know, it went smoother, I think.
Yeah, but basically 3 weeks. They saved their season. Like they could make the playoffs. I mean, they don't even have to go on a 10-game winning streak to make the playoff. They just don't. If they just win series and win 6 out of 10 or whatever, they could make the wild card, which I find to be pretty stunning. I don't like Philly, so I mean it makes no difference to me. But and Bobby Dickerson is interesting because he's a hard guy. He's not an easy guy.
Yeah.
But I love the fact of your backstory with him and.
Yeah, it was fun. I went to the game and got batting practice passes to I forget, it was like the first game, the initial game on a Tuesday. I think Wheeler was pitching that night, and I just talked to him behind the cage for a little bit, and one of the topics that came up was I asked him about the ABS system, because I always like to see the perspective. I'll call him an old school baseball guy. He's been around forever. So I said, what's your take on the ABS system? And I thought he was going to say, screw that technology stuff. And he said, no, he thought it was great. His one thing is, and this, I guess you could say is his old schoolness, is he says there's no way that they can tell if that ball is that close. Like, a hair.
Who can't win?
The system. He's questioning the actual system itself that can tell that ball is a hair. So, because you see him and it's literally tapping the edge of that box.
And they call it a strike.
Yeah. He is saying that they should have it where it should be at least 10% of the ball is in the zone, because he believes there's still a margin for error, even with the system, and that they shouldn't be giving that pitch that's the credit card, not even the credit card, the hair, the playing card, just taps.
See, here's why I disagree. I've always felt, going back, it's not as bad as the Maddox Glavine era. I hate small strike zones. I want a big strike zone. So doesn't that, the nose hair in makes it a strike, doesn't that expand the strike zone? Right? And to me, it makes a bigger strike zone. And to me, that means you got to go after more pitches to hit. And to me, as a fan, that means more baseballs being played in the field. So, first of all, I literally, he farts out more information than I'll ever. I mean, he knows so much more about baseball than me. My instinct when you said that was like, I don't agree with that. I actually think that expanding the strike zone is good.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is exactly right, because I think it makes sense because the expansion part. What I'm saying is, I think his point is right because he wants more certainty. He wants more certainty that the ball is actually.
Don't say
there.
half the ball. He just says 10% of the ball.
He's saying basically, if you can tell that there's a fart in between that line, you should be able to tell there's 10% of the ball in that box.
Well, fair enough.
But he also said, the first thing he said to me, he said, it tells you how damn good the umpires really are.
It does. It really, really does. And I think that we'll make fun of who's the guy now who screws up all the time?
C.B. Buckner.
Yeah, we make fun of him. And I actually think that's a great point because it's so hard. I did freaking intramural softball for 1 year at college. Balls and strikes is really hard. And I actually think out and safe calls on tags is really hard too.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Like they're generally really, really good. And some of those calls are so close. And it also shows you like what players are too worried about themselves and which players aren't. Because I think if some dude in the second inning is forcing his manager to challenge,
right,
and then they're wrong, that really hurts the team.
Yeah.
So I think there are team dynamics. I thought he was going to maybe comment on that a little bit.
Well,
because
I did.
Some teams seem to give the player full freedom.
So I asked
to
him about
challenge.
that. I asked him. I said, "What's your take on like I'm watching these Yankees and they're challenging two batters are challenging in the first inning, and I go next and they lose them, and next thing you know, it's the 8th inning and it's a pivotal play." And I said, "And you don't have it." I said, "What are you guys telling your players? Are you telling them to just do it? Are you telling them to be conservative and keep them for later?" He said our analytics guys are saying use it, just use them whenever you feel it. Whenever you feel it, use it.
So
Regardless.
they give the players the full freedom.
Full freedom. Now, he did not say that's how it's going to go. He says that's how it is now. And that was the first question I asked him. I said, "Is that just so you're just trying to let these guys figure it out?" And he just said, "Well, that's what the analytics people say."
Well, in basketball, right, and the time differences, basketball, most of the teams now have an iPad guy behind the bench. And if the player says, "I want to challenge it," then the coach looks back and the guy gives a thumbs up or thumbs
Right.
down. And
But you don't have that luxury in the pitching. You just don't have the time.
It's
do
just
it.
too quick?
It's just way too. You don't have it. You just don't have it. You don't have the time.
I think that, I very rarely see pitch clock violations, so I don't know if that means that everyone just gets it done in time or the rules are too loose with
You
the
see
pitch
more.
clock.
You see more of the engagement ones other than the pitch clock. You see more of the visual engagements where the batter isn't engaged by 8 seconds or the pitcher hasn't given the batter time
And they
to
give him a
engage,
strike?
and they give him a strike. They usually give him a warning first, and then they give him a ball against the pitcher or a batter.
Right.
Yeah. So I think you see more of that because these pitchers they figured it out. Plus the clocks are right there. The engagement more thing I think comes down to the guys are just off on the routine, getting into the box or whatever.
So, I mean, this doesn't seem to be hindering the speed of the game that
No,
much.
I don't think so. And actually, I think it adds to the game. I think it adds to the fan experience. I think it completely. I think it adds to the player experience. I mean, you've already seen it where the rookie Travis Bazzana with the Guardians. He came up in his first game. He blew a call. He turned around and apologized to the ump.
Oh, I like that.
You know,
I thought
and they
that,
say
yeah.
he has one of the best eyes in minor league baseball. #1 draft pick overall 2 years ago. So it's a different dynamic. It's not going to go away. If anything, it's going to get tweaked. I did ask him if he thinks you should get more than 2, and he said no. He said that he thinks is good. But that also led me to say, so these guys are gonna have to figure out when to use them. And I said I think it will change when the playoffs come. It's going to come down to more of very regimented, where it might be you don't even think about it unless there's a major situation or if it's after the 6th inning.
Just hold them.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Only time will tell.
Anything else on your mind?
Nothing. It'll be interested to see the Yankees. Other than that, how they respond to the bad press coming out of losing the series to the woeful Mets, because the Mets are awful. Let's be honest, and everything that can go bad for the Mets is going bad. Because even Clay Holmes breaking his leg against the Yankees series. So it's not good to be a Mets team. It's not good to be a Mets fan right now. But they did beat the Yankees in the series, so it's not
Well,
good to be
AJ Ewing is a pretty interesting guy to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, he's tiny, flies. He walked 3 times at the bottom of the order, which is nuts. I
Yeah.
don't know what the Yankees were doing, but
He looked good on the Rays, right?
he's a Ray player already. John Senecal, Brian Jackman, you've been listening to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports.